What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Tide Talk. It's Wednesday, April 2nd, and we're back in the away end to preview RIFC's upcoming USL Championship match in Oakland. Just a reminder, each episode is available on YouTube, and if you're watching right now, please take a second to subscribe to our channel and click the thumbs up button to like this video. You can also find us on your favorite podcast applications like Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And if you listen on one of those, we'd really appreciate it if you took a minute to leave us a 5-star rating and a short review, as it helps more people find our podcast. One last plug, if you're not already, go check out the RIFC Club Collector app and enter the code TIDETALK25, all lowercase, all one word, to get an exclusive pack added to your collection today. So cozy up, grab a bear. Let's dive into this one. I'm your host, Matt, and as always, I'm joined by my good friend Ryan. I thought you picked up a jar of tomato sauce at first there. Wasn't quite sure what that was, but how's it going, buddy?
It's good. I'm disappointed in myself. I was on mute for that one, so just didn't get the echo in here, which is sad. But hey, we roll on.
That's awesome. We've also got our Oakland Roots expert, Jonathan Como from the Oakland Roots blog, to help us preview this one. How's it going, John?
Hi, doing well. Glad to be back on. You guys are a great podcast, one of the best for the USL. So very happy to hop back on.
Appreciate the kind words. Very and our good friend and one of our bloggers, Timmy Sclafani, appreciates your shirt. So I know Ryan does not, but oh well. So let's kind of get started with this one, and tell us about your personal Oakland Roots fandom and Oakland Roots blog.
Yeah, I started Oakland Roots blog in the 2021 season. I've been going since the first game. I actually decided to start Oakland Roots blog with a couple of other guys in 2021 after a game fell through with Sacramento. Our field was a patchwork field at the time, and we had no one telling our story. So I figured, I'm a journalist. Why not me? So started Oakland Roots blog, and, it's done very well. We've grown every year. We actually hit our record month in March, and we did that without any huge breaking news stories like about the Coliseum, signing people like Dom Dwyer, or a coach getting fired. So I think, it's been a lot of fun, and it's been fun to watch the website grow.
That's pretty cool. We have a lot of aspiring bloggers and guys getting, their blogs going in our group too. So hopefully they can grow to that and keep hitting those numbers as well. But again, appreciate you taking the time to join us on this episode.
Always. Thank you.
Awesome. So could you take a minute to bring everyone here into the Oakland season so far? So I see that you are sitting last in the West with 1 point from 4, drawing your last match with Las Vegas Lights. So what were the expectations like going into the season, and kind of how is it looking so far?
Well, pain is nothing new to an Oakland Roots fan, I will say. But yeah, we are winless.
An Oakland Roots Spurs fan especially, right?
Oakland Roots, Spurs. I follow the Cal Bears in football, so I know pain. Oh, and I grew up an Oakland Raiders fan, so that one probably hurts most of all. But yeah, we're winless through 4 matches. We just got our first point of the season after what I would say was the most busiest offseason personnel-wise in club history. They spent a lot of money. I know that they are around the top in the Western Conference in spending now, maybe at the top when you throw in housing costs in the Bay Area. Go figure. So I think based on that information alone, there was some pretty high expectations, and some fans are freaking out. Some people like me are trying to stay patient. So I think based on anybody you talk to in this fan base, you might get a different answer. So I'll try and stay level-headed for everybody.
Matt Hands in the chat wants to know and says, "I'm sorry, but how much do you miss Johnny Rodriguez?"
A lot. I mean, he is the club's all-time record goal scorer. So, people miss him dearly. I know that the club got a huge transfer fee for him They've said they could, buy a couple Johnnies with what they've got. So it's an interesting situation. I think that again, based on anybody you talk to, there's someone going to be like, "Oh, the front office really screwed up here," and then people like me will be like, "Oh well." Sometimes you have to pull the trigger, or you never will be able to. So they brought in an international striker to fill his spot, Peter Wilson. We still don't know exactly what we're getting there. We just know he's fast. He's pretty tall. He's very physical. They also signed EJ Johnson, who I consider the heir apparent to Johnny Rodriguez. He's only 21 years old. They signed Johnny Rodriguez when they were in Nisa back in 2019 or 2020, right before the pandemic, when he was 21 years old. So the body of work between the two is very different. I would say EJ has a much better resume at being being 21 years old than when Johnny Rodriguez was 21 years old. But there will always be that question now. If they don't score goals, well, why would you trade away your leading goal scorer? So, yes, miss him dearly. I would say everybody misses him dearly, but staying optimistic with who they got. Well, there's a lot of question marks still, but we will see.
I mean, being in Oakland, do you think it was like a Moneyball situation? They were like, we can't, recreate Johnny Rodriguez, but we can create him in aggregate. Did I mess up the quote?
I mean, somewhat. I mean, I think that for me, I think it was they got this offer for Johnny that they'll never get again. And it was at a point that if you don't sell him now, you're never going to be able to sell him. You had multiple years left on his contract. Who knows if someone's going to pick him up with a year left or just an option year left on his deal. And then you throw in, you're probably not going to get the same amount of value or near that value if you continue and then try to sell him after the 2025 season. So I think it was a use it or lose it scenario. I mean, my perspective, just trying to think of from a personnel perspective, it's like, oh, you got to pull that trigger. And then you try and supplement with other players. We'll see Peter Wilson, what he can do. He scored some ungodly number of goals, supposedly, in the third division of Norway. He had like 28 goals or something. The numbers are all over the place. It's hard to know what's factual with third division Norway, but when you bring up his highlights, all his highlights are from the same year, so I'm guessing he did score those goals. And then EJ Johnson is, for me, he's a very interesting prospect. He's someone that if he can really hit the ground running, we might not see him in a few years. MLS teams and so on are going to come calling. He's 21 years old. He's built like a first round draft pick as a free safety. He's very intriguing. I'm really looking forward to seeing what he can do in the next couple of years, just based on his physicality and alone and how he's built. So there will be questions at the striker position until there aren't.
One more question from the chat we've got from where the living room used to be. I'm not sorry, but how do you miss Paul Blanchette? Just so you know, to kind of give you some background in there, Paul Blanchette was not well received in Rhode Island after the match in Rhode Island. I believe he has an emoji in the Defiant 1636, our supporters club Discord server.
I love that.
Paul was public enemy number one after that match. So how do you feel
I don't know.
the keeper?
Paul was okay. I loved Paul because when he played away, and you guys saw this firsthand, he became a different person. Like at home, he's very reserved. He's not yelling. And then I remember that game specifically.
It was wild.
He threw his shoe into the stands. So, I think when you can looking back on the offseason, they said goodbye to Paul Blanchett. They said goodbye to Memo Diaz. They said goodbye to Johnny Rodriguez. I think that the message was it's time to turn the page. We're not getting any further with these guys. We got to look different places. So Kendall McIntosh comes in. He's been okay in these first 4 games. He's really quick off his line. I like that about him. He seems to be just as good a shot stopper as Paul Blanchett. And we got to throw in there, Paul Blanchett's still a free agent. There's got to be a reason for that. I'm sure there were other teams that said, look, we want to look a different way too. So I think that Roots may have got something right there in the evaluation process. I mean, if he doesn't have any options, there's, got to be a reason for that. So they supplement.
Think it happened to do with the shoe throwing incident?
Who knows, man? Maybe it also, might be he's pushing 30. You're probably not, the trajectory isn't going up anymore. Mm-hmm. It's only going to go downwards. So, I know that they wanted Kendall McIntosh for years, since they started this thing, knowing that he is an Oakland boy. He went to Santa Clara University, grew up in the area, has family in the area. They always wanted him. There's people in the front office that knew Kendall when he was a kid and were driving with him to school, so they've always wanted him. We haven't seen our new international keeper yet, Rafael Spiegel, but he looks like he has one of the best boots instantly in the league. He can just bomb the ball 80 yards, on a dime. So we'll see when he gets integrated, how quickly that happens. But yeah, we haven't seen him yet. So right now, I think you could probably expect Kendall McIntosh will continue in that starter role.
I'm just excited that when I promote this episode, I get to mention the fact that we talked about Paul Blanchett in it. That'll
yes,
get people going.
That's an instant click button. Paul Blanchett, I fucking hate that guy.
Really get the juices flowing. But John, one segment that we do on Tide Talk is called RIFC in 3, where after a match we ask our listeners to give us a 3-word review of the match, of the performance. If you could give a 3-word review of Oakland's season to start, what would the title be?
3 words: painful, inconsistent, and optimism.
Not usually 3 that go together. 2 out of 3 go together, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. It's we really don't know what we got yet. It's winless in 4. I guess both of us here, both teams here, are trying to capture that Colorado Springs magic to where they go winless in 6 and still win the title. So pain and inconsistency in giving up 4 goals in the opener, giving up 3 goals to Monterey, although Monterey kind of looks like they're in a strong run right now. And then optimism in finally keeping that clean sheet against Las Vegas, looking like they have some kind of defensive plan. And there was also some looks going forward, good moments in the buildup. I mean, this team very clearly is still building. So, I mean, it's a matter of how quickly they can put it together. It's a process. That would be a good 3 words. It's a process.
Okay.
All right. So one other segment that we do on our show is called Good, Bad, and the Ugly. It also can be good, better, best if you want to go that route. So far, it doesn't sound like that's going to be the case, but dealer's choice on which way you want to go. But could you give us a good, better, best, or good, bad, ugly for the season so far?
Let's see. Good. Man. Jose Luis Sinisterra has looked productive. There are moments of brilliance with this team. Sinisterra is a very tricky-footed winger, can move centrally. He looks good. Panos Armanakis looks good. And then what were the others? Bad and worse, or better and best? Bad, the defense. I mean, they allowed 9 goals through the first 3 games.
Feel you on that.
So, yeah. So holding on to the clean sheet was definitely a big positive in this last game after giving up 9-3. Never a winning formula. And then let's go worse. I would say the midfield. There's really no answer to the midfield right now. I mean, right now it looks like Tyler Gibson and Danny Gomez are the for sure starters until proven otherwise. I always thought going into the season it was a questionable position because, I mean, we weren't really sure who was going to start. Camden Riley was the more so surefire starter in the midfield, kind of a CDM, but he's played at right back this season and he's gone down with an injury. Not sure if he'll be able to play this Saturday.
Midfielders playing right back, you say?
Yeah. Tyler Gibson looks like the best midfielder, which may be a testament to where they are right now. I mean, he was coming from Indy 11 where he had the worst year of his career, but he's instantly a starter for Oakland Roots. Danny Gomez is a call up from the academy from a couple of years ago, and he's young, but I mean, he plays it very, very safe. I think that if this team is going to start hitting new levels, they have to have more productivity out in the midfield. So, yeah, those are your three there. You're not gonna find much optimism right now when you're winless, but we're trying.
Hey, we haven't had a good, better, best yet, so we get it.
No, we just try to save those for wins, but Timmy asked in the chat, it looks like you have maybe moved on from Hacksaw as captain. Any thoughts on why this might be?
What can I say publicly? I mean, no. I mean,
feel free to say all of it on this podcast.
I think there have been, you look at Tyler Gibson, he's been the captain. They believe in him. He has they've been captain with Gibson, and he, has that history from playing in San Francisco with the Deltas, winning a title there, but they believe in him. They've put him in front of the camera. They've put him, I had media day. He was one of the people up there. Camden Riley was another. He's popped up on KTVU, which is our local news station. So they believe in him. I think they've always believed in his leadership. Nabil Hackshaw, I think that he's still a defensive leader, but maybe not that vocal guy that they wanted. So, I mean, I think that when you look at this roster, they've added a lot of leadership type of players. Kai Green from Monterey, Tyler Gibson, list goes on. So I think that they just identified these older leadership types. I think Tyler Gibson has a few, maybe 4 years on Hackshaw, so I'm sure that had to tie into it.
Cool. Well, probably one of the coolest questions I get to ask or coolest answers for this.
Is that why you changed the entire order this time, so you could ask this question?
Of course, is to talk about the stadium atmosphere, and obviously you guys now being in the 63,000 seat Oakland Coliseum, I believe it is. So just talk about what that first game was like with that atmosphere, and then kind of how it's been since and how you see it progressing throughout the season.
Mm-hmm. Well, the first game was 26,575. It was awesome. They've actually limited the capacity to 15,000. How that figure that USL wants for D1. The next game was only 7,000, but that was still more than what Roots had at any other time in the previous years in the USL. So, I think it's a little difficult to sell quickly after that home opener. I mean, all the hype that was there. I mean, it was loud. It was awesome. Haven't seen the Coliseum like that in a long time. So that was a lot of fun to experience. Like I told people, I was sitting on the sidelines. I do photography too. And it was a game where it was difficult to pay attention to the game. You're just looking around at the stands and listening to all the sounds you hear. So next game, I mean, 7,000, still not that bad. I know that they want to, push that 10K number more, but I think there will be more games that you can circle as like, oh, they will have more marquee selling dates, like Sacramento at home. We'll have CBS here for that. That's going to be a big one. There's also the annual doubleheader with Oakland Soul, our women's team. That one's always has a big ticket sale. So I think those two dates in particular will be big sale ticket days, and maybe of course towards the end of the regular season when all the people are like, oh, there's only 2 games left, I gotta go now.
No, that makes
That's
total
cool.
sense.
And I know we talked a little bit off air before we went live, but you're expecting this to kind of be like at least a 2 or 3 year deal.
Yeah, they already announced that they have intention to stay longer than 2025, which is also important for Oakland Soul to bounce up from the W League to the USL Super League and get that D1 status. So I think that they're going to try and stay at the Coliseum for as long as possible until they can lock down their permanent stadium site. I mean, when you think about it, it makes sense financially too. They were looking at building an interim stadium at Malibu Lot, which is outside of the Coliseum, and that would have cost, a lot of money. They are committed at the Coliseum for $3 million per year, and if you were to do construction on a interim stadium, I mean, it would probably cost upwards of $100 million. I mean, I also do prep. I cover prep sports in the area, and there's a local gym here for a high school. Well, they spent $60 million on their on their gym. So anything for Roots would be, much more expensive. So it just makes sense to try and stay put at the Coliseum for as long as possible, and hopefully that expedites the process for their permanent site.
Matt, could you imagine the
Cool.
Canva work you could get done in a $60 million gym?
Oh my God. I'm a phys ed teacher, and as Ryan alluded to, I play on Canva all day long. So if you noticed the new intro video today, that was part of my daily work.
Awesome. So as we start to turn our attention to the game, and as you know, we went through how their season's going, but are there 3 players that we should look out for people who might not be as familiar with the Roots?
Yeah, I think it starts with Panos Sarmanakis. He was the marquee signing of the offseason. In my opinion, he was a top 5 free agent from former USL teams. So, I mean, the attack really starts there. If we're making plays, it's going through Panos. I mean, he's awesome. He's a lot of fun to watch. I mentioned Jose Luis Sinisterra earlier. He could be a guy. He's also been moved to the bench once, and I think that had to do for defensive reasons. So very talented on the ball, but Gavin Glinton, the coach, he really harps on defense. He wants his team to be defensively sound. So we'll see right there. But if he's in the game, he's a very tricky, technically gifted player. He's from Colombia. He's really fun to watch, really good on the ball. After that, I mean, we're all looking at Peter Wilson to see what he can provide. He's not totally the same player as Johnny, who could, take a lot of passes and drop deeper into that 10 role at times. He's more so of a player who's going to press that back line and only take like 10 touches a game, but those 10 touches might be, a first touch pass or a first touch shot. So we definitely want to see more of what he's going to bring to this attack. Who else? Wolfgang Prentice has been
You have some incredible names on this team, I have to say.
Yeah, right. I was just thinking the same
Yes, Wolfie, he's a fun one. So
it sounded like our MFL squad, Ryan.
Right.
Go Stars.
He's been at the club for since we came into the USL Championship, but he spent all of those years on loan. So I think this is a make or break year for Wolfgang. He's He's fun to watch on the left side, really fast, and is in a pretty good run of form. He's really aggressive, not afraid to pull the trigger. So I would say those collection of guys you got to watch for.
Right on. I see right on schedule our guy Nateski's in the chat, so it works out perfect for the timing of his usual go-to question of could you identify any subs that could come on and really change the match? Obviously, no, it's dependent on who's going to start or what the formation might be, but anyone that's been kind of not just outside that starting 11, but who could really come on and make an impact in this one.
Yeah. EJ Johnson has came off the bench for every game except the opener, which he started. So they have a big commitment to EJ Johnson getting meaningful minutes and making plays. He's going to come on in the late minutes and use his speed to try and make a difference. Yeah, it depends on who is coming in. I'm hoping we start to see a new midfielder named Bobasi. I cannot tell you his last name. We haven't seen him yet, but the club posted some pictures today, and who was there? Bobasi. So hoping he can be an impact in that midfield. Really want to see what he can bring. But as for subs, I think it starts with EJ. If Roots need to push for a goal or just create anything offensively, which they need to do right now, he's going to play.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. So everyone, if you are listening live, start getting those score predictions in the chat as we wind towards those. But Jonathan, as we kind of look at this one, what do you think are the keys to the game? So for Roots to take this one home, what needs to happen, and vice versa? If Rhode Island FC were to win, what do you think happens out there?
Well, I think if Rhode Island wins, it's because they're able to carve up this defense, get the ball in between the lines and get in behind. That was a big struggle through the first 3 games that they lost. Just not playing good defensively. I mean, 9 goals in 3 games. I mean, that tells you a lot is going wrong. So for Roots to be successful, they have to really finally prove that they can play this system that the coach wants. And that is to not necessarily have the ball, but to force the opposition to dribble in the traps and attack them in transition and actually finish in transition. They last match, they finally had some good moments in the buildup, but in those previous matches, was just disjointed. There's, everything sloppy. People getting in behind, people slipping and falling and allowing shots, marking not good. So this last game against Las Vegas, they finally showed some potential in being able to play off of the opponent's attack and actually turn defense into offense. And, I love that as a fan of soccer at this level. I think that, San Antonio from a few years ago proved that if you play good defense, you can take on any team and hit teams on the counter when they're really, really vulnerable. Everybody wants to play this high possessive, high octane, high, pressure attack, but not everybody can do it. So I think what Roots want to do is to stifle that and show that defense can provide the best offense, and they haven't proved that yet. So that's what we're looking for.
Awesome. So we got a couple more people still getting their score predictions in the chat. So if you haven't already, make sure you do it. And if you've got yours, make sure you click that thumbs up button, give us a like if you're still with us, and just helps out our videos and algorithms and all that good stuff. But we'll look at score predictions, and I had a hard time with this one. Ryan, do you want to start? Do you want me to go first?
I can start. All right. So I'm going 3-1 Rhode Island FC. I just keep saying it every week. I'm just hoping eventually it happens. Like at this point, I don't have like really good rationale. At this point, I'm just like, hey, I'll just keep picking it, and one of these days I'll be right. looking at Oakland offensively, they're last in expected goals per match at 0.64. They're 21st in big chances created at just 3 and 4 matches. Not a team that puts in a lot of crosses, 15th in the league there. And has the 6th worst expected goals for on set pieces and corners. So kind of our Achilles heel so far, they're not excellent at, which is a lovely sign. And then defensively, they're second to last in the league in goals conceded per match. That's all I got. I don't know.
Things are going well.
Yeah, I mean, to be clear, Rhode Island FC is hovering around the same places on all these things. So I don't have a great reason for this. My big reason is Kano definitely watched the last podcast. He's going to try my new formation. That's why we're going to win. Oof. He's not, but.
Well,
I don't feel good about it. To be clear, I never feel good about it, but I particularly don't feel good about it this time.
Before we get you, Jonathan, we'll get some of these in here. We got our guy Nate Ski. He's got a 2-1 RIFC win. Timmy's got a sorry gang. I went 2-1 Oakland. Trying to reverse the jinx. I get that, Timmy. I do. Sarah's got 1-0 RIFC. Yeah. Prayers for a win. Kevin's saying, where did mine go? It never made the chat. I didn't see it, but I'm sure that's got good reason. But we'll start with you before I give mine, Jonathan. What do you got for your score prediction? How do you see this one shaking out?
Well, guys, I've said it before. I'll say it again. I've never predicted a Roots loss. I've never even predicted a tie. So I'm going 2-1 Roots. And yeah, I don't expect us to put a lot of goals up, but I don't expect us to keep them out either. So it's got to be at least 2-1.
So we should have been like 5-4. Just like let's have some fun.
I thought about that. That was on my radar. To just come in something astronomical with it, and like a baseball score for the Coliseum, which I do have to say, Jonathan, the nod to the Oakland A's with the kits is really nicely done. I think you guys always have awesome kits, one of the tops, if not tops in the league every year. So to do that local connection and with being in the stadium, I think is really cool. It must just be nice to get kits. We didn't get them this year yet, but rumor has it we might be getting something mid-season, so we'll see. I don't know. I can't confirm or deny the sources. But Oakland scoring 1.25 goals per match, conceding 1.8. The rare stat bomb from Matthew Harron.
I was saying, you see math?
Rhode Island scoring. Yeah, I had to use my calculator, all my toes, and all that. That's why I teach phys ed. Rhode Island's scoring 0.67 goals per match, 2 conceded per match, and that's pretty consistent. I think that keeps up. I'm so mad at myself with this one because I wanted to predict the loss like Timmy said. I wanted to go 2-1 Oakland. It's kind of what my head told me, but I listened to our good friend, and guests that we've had on here, who hopefully will be joining us monthly, and listened to the interview with Mark Ibarra and from Tommy Quinlan, and there was a players only meeting after the last match in Loudoun, and Tommy did a great job of kind of drawing comparisons to that event in that match, and looking at the I believe it was the Tulsa game from last year. Well, Memphis game from last year. I'm sorry. Memphis game from last year, and how Kano really said that was a turning point for them. So hopefully if these players are really get on it, this could be a real turning point for us this year. Going cross country sucks. It's never easy. It always kind of changes, the way things go out. So if you haven't already, we retweeted Tommy's interview with Mark Ibarra from the Tide Talk Twitter account. So go listen to that. It's a great 20-minute clip. Ibarra is a straight dog, and I mean that in the most positive way. But one thing that stuck out that you said, Jonathan, was your midfield being, I think it was did you have that as your worst? I think that would have been as your worst, right? Yeah. So everything. I think our midfield is solid. I hope we see our actual midfield in this one. I know we're going to be without Haraval on suspension, but I think if our midfield can kind of string some passes together, control possession a little bit better. I was even going to go draw, but I'm going to go 2-1. I took a long time to answer that. So I was going 2-1 either way. I just didn't know which team I was going to and which team I was going 1. But I think we could write the ship
too. But
Yeah, I was kind of going there too, but listening to Tommy's interview with Ibarra made me think, the players kind of hashed some shit out, this week in training, and hopefully that was a good thing going forward. And hopefully it's kind of that transition point in the season and onto good and better things moving into the opener at Tidewater. But that's my long roundabout answer of giving a 2-1 that I think I predict almost every time on here. So, probably didn't have to say all those words for it.
We haven't come close to 3 goals yet, so
no, that's not happening. That's not happening for a while. All right, Jonathan. So before we get you out of here, any final thoughts? Anything else you want to share with us, and tell our listeners where they can find you on the socials? Hold on, Ryan? Did Hearts of Pine just win?
Hearts of Pine just tied it up 1-1. 116th
Oh my
minute.
God.
They're down a man.
Well, we do carry the explicit tag on here, so fuck Hartford.
Fuck Hartford.
Feel the same way about Sacramento. I wish Sacramento was bad like Hartford, but yeah, it's we feel like the little brother, but it's almost like we tell Sacramento fans, like, they don't think about us. Well, we're gonna make you hate us. But totally yeah, thanks for having me on. You can follow me at Jonathan_COMO on Twitter, X, I guess, OaklandRootsBlog.com. We do all the pre-game, post-game, talk to the coach, individual stories. So all the Roots content at our page. So thanks for having me on. It's always a lot of fun, and I hope you guys enjoy the game without Paul Blanchett. You don't have to deal with that.
It'll be hard
anymore. Maybe you wish Paul Blanchett was in there just for that drama factor.
If it's like 0-0,
watch him show up in Hartford this season.
Ooh.
oh, that would be juicy. They should do that.
But seriously, the Roots blog is definitely one of the big like inspirations for what we're doing at Tide Talk on the blog side. So I definitely recommend anyone who hasn't checked it out, do them some page views and check out what they're doing. So it's really, really great work over there.
Appreciate that.
Cool. Anything else from you, Mr. Healy?
3-1, baby. It's gonna happen.
You don't believe that? That's the best part. The way you said it, I can sense the doubt.
Well, I also have doubt.
Definitely want to thank everyone.
Terrible at Club Collector been awful. Predictions awful. Like, it's just not been, the team itself awful. It just hasn't been my season. But Bukayo Saka is back, so anything can happen.
Jonathan, we have this app called Club Collector where you collect cards from the team on different rarity levels, and you set your lineup like fantasy, and I think it's 5 or 6 different play modes. And you can ask Ryan, who's sitting at top of that for all of the match days on the scores right now. You can just ask Ryan.
I mean, it's clearly Zach setting your lineup for you, so let's not like his son has like the Midas touch with this stuff. So
I've got him beat. My son killed everyone last year, and I'm sitting at top of the table right now. It won't be long lived, so I have to gloat this while I can. All right, but thanks again for everyone tuning in. If you haven't already, please click that thumbs up button, give the video a like. We appreciate all you guys taking the time to join us and spend some time with us and preview all these matches. And thank you for Jonathan again for joining us, giving us all that insight on Oakland Roots. But that'll wrap things up for this one. Remember, Tide Talk is more than just a podcast. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook for daily social media content. Click the link in this episode description to follow all of our accounts. I've been your host, Matt, for Ryan and Jonathan. Thanks again for joining. We'll see you next time. And as always, up the Tide.
Up the Tide.